My name is Kisha Lee. All my life I've been on a search for purpose. Once I found it, it became my mission to find others who feel that they are living their purpose in life, in hopes to encourage others to do the same. This is Purpose TV. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored. I have been following you on Facebook for a while. I know your best friend. She and I have known each other for a long time, and her brother is married to my cousin. So
Yes.
I know her, and I know that you guys have a podcast together. And I was like, who is this beautiful woman that I keep seeing on my timeline? I was like, oh, and I was like, she has some things really going on for herself. I was like, oh man, she lives in Atlanta and the whole 9 yards. So I have been just randomly following you. Then I found out about the podcast. I was like, oh my God. And I've listened to a few of them as well. I really love the concept, but I don't want to step ahead of myself. I want this audience to know who you are. So what is your name?
My name is TaNesha McAuley.
Wonderful. Now, where are you from?
I'm originally from Sanford, North Carolina.
Wow.
Yes.
But you live here in Atlanta now.
I am here in ATL. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have a story to tell. Tell me first, anything about your upbringing that you would want the audience to know about you.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Most of people that know me from Sanford, they know that I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church, Johnsonville AME Zion Church down in Harnett County. And I sung in the choir all of my younger years and some of my teenage years. And it's one of those big family kind of friends community, so
Yes.
No one is a stranger. We're all related through blood or just through fellowship. So that's that, and my parents, Evelyn Smith, and my dad, the late Melvin McAuley Sr. So yeah, and I got two older brothers. I'm the girl, the baby.
You're the baby.
Yeah, I'm the baby.
Oh, the only girl.
Only girl.
Were you spoiled?
I wasn't spoiled. I was accustomed to being like the youngest and kind of felt like I was the only because they're so much older than me.
Oh.
So yeah,
so it's
I
a
had
big
some
age gap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that there's a lot of journey that happened from you being in Sanford to you being in Atlanta.
Yes.
So definitely, what called you to come here?
So I met my late husband, Joe, as they called him. I had no idea that, first I didn't know who he was. We met in Durham, North Carolina because once I graduated from high school, I moved to Durham because that's where I started attending college. I went to North Carolina Central University,
Central?
Eagle Pride.
Hey.
And once I graduated from undergrad, I moved there. And I started working there, and I was working with Durham County government. And it was a suite mate of mine there at the time that kept talking about this guy. She was like, someone wants to meet you. He's working over at one of the law firms. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll run into each other,
Yeah.
Long story short, I met him on the stoop. We were outside, and we learned that both of us were from Sanford. And I was like, I've never seen you in Sanford.
Oh.
But I realized that I knew his sisters.
Okay.
And one of his sisters was actually in class with me at the time.
How about
And
that?
so we just put two and two together. And he, at the time, was in law school and he was completing law school. And he told me, he was like, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta to open up a law firm. And I was like, oh, I had never thought about living in Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah, never thought about living here in Atlanta. Atlanta was the place where it came to party, came to hang out.
Exactly.
Never thought about living here. And so the rest was history. Once we hung out that first time, we were inseparable. And, we got engaged. I moved here. He was here. And that's how I've been in Atlanta now for almost 9 years.
Wow. I was
Yeah.
about to ask how long you've been here.
Yeah, almost.
Oh
9
my
years.
God. Okay, so let's pause right there because I don't want to get too ahead of yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, let's ask, what do you do now?
Now I am with Cobb County District Attorney's Office, and I serve as a project manager for an amazing program that's going to work with victims of domestic violence. Yeah, that was a recent appointment.
so
I had no idea that I was going to get back into the traditional work sector because I started out here when I first came to Atlanta. I was working with the state, and then I went to the county, and then I started my own thing as an entrepreneur. I launched a firm for public relations, kind of started doing some of those things I've always dreamed of. And then it just, I can't even really articulate how it all came together, but that's what I'm doing now. And I'm still doing the entrepreneur thing. So it's a balancing act.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I know you said a little bit about it, but yeah, tell us about that a little bit more.
Absolutely. So I own a public relations firm. It's called I Am Professionals. And we work with individuals in branding their business, making sure that they have the proper look and image for whatever it is they're trying to do. Because we want to make sure that they put their best foot forward. And it gives me and my team an opportunity to help newcomers that's coming in trying to figure it out. It gives us a chance to help them be their best self. So that's what I Am Professionals as an entrepreneur. And it's worked for us. I've had an opportunity to do some great things as a business owner. I started out with a clothing line, online store. It's called Hello Bliss.
All right. Do you still have it?
No, because I realized that was a lot. Like, I was the everything. I was the buyer. I was the get the website up and running. I was the marketing person, like selling the clothes.
Wow.
I was the fashion person. So while I loved it, it was a lot. So that was kind of like the next steps for me, and saying, you know what, I can help other entrepreneurs be great at what they do. So that's it.
All right. Now that you say that you had to let Hello Bliss go, I know there's a lot of people out here who may have some things that they have started or are interested in, but they feel like they don't want to take that step because they are afraid of failing. Or, there's a lot of negative things when it comes to entrepreneurship and fear. It was awesome to take that step, but how did you know when to let it go? I know you said why you let it go, but I know when you put so much time and energy into something, to have to let it go is tough. So tell me about how you just had to mentally make that choice.
For me, it really was when I started to realize that time is money. Time is money. And I love fashion.
Yeah.
And I realized that there was another angle that I could take where I could still, kind of do what I love, but save the time, which was ultimately costing me money. So I took all of those tools and I said, let me help other people who wants to do this, and I will give it freely. Because I knew that because I love fashion, that's a part of me. So I can still dress accordingly. I can still, highlight those things that I love about fashion and still be able to move forward and do it. And even knowing that I could come back and pick it up at some point, because that was the most difficult piece about it. It's like starting. But once I got into it and once I started doing it, that was the easy thing. And I've been fortunate to be able to share that gift with other young women, young men, and said, look, I want to start an online clothing store. I want to do a boutique. I was like, I got the tools. I can help you do it. So yeah. So it wasn't a hard decision for me to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to, because anything that I've ever done in business or just in a professional way, I want to be able to give my best. And if I can't do that, then I know that's when it's time to put it to the side.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I have to relate to that is when I first started, this is my third attempt at a magazine.
Okay.
The first time, well, actually, both times prior to now, I literally was doing everything myself.
Yes.
And it was overwhelming, and it was not producing any money. And it was taking over everything. And I said, okay. And it was hard. It was still my baby. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be able to like let this go even though I don't want to? And I said, well, Kisha, you don't have to let it go all the way. You can let it go for now,
Yes.
and then come back.
Yes.
Come back
Absolutely.
to it. And that's why this is my third attempt at the magazine. But I wanted to another entrepreneurs, take on what it was like to have to make that decision. So thank you for that. I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now to something that I don't, it's hard for me to talk about anything that may hurt, so I hope that you're okay with talking about your husband. Can you tell us about you guys' relationship?
Oh goodness, yes. He and I became best friends.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, from the time we met, we literally hung out just about every day or every other day. And that was easy because we lived in the same city at the time and we didn't live too far from each other.
Sweet.
I loved hanging out with him because he was very adventurous. So it introduced me to things that I normally would kind of turn a side eye at, like going to a baseball game. Mm-hmm. I went to my first Durham Bulls game with him, and I actually enjoyed it. I know I got on his nerves because I was like, well, what just happened over there? You know, I know about a home run, but let's talk about the ninth inning and all of this other stuff. So that's literally the type of interaction that we had. So he was my best friend. I thought about marriage a couple of times, but I never thought that I was going to get married. Not to say there was any reason why I wouldn't, but when we started talking about it, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be married. Like, I'm getting married. And so I remember we were moving up to that point in time because we started having conversations about rings and what kind of ring I would like. And most of my family and friends that know me they know that I love like really like big, bright, shiny, anything. Whether it's jewelry, hair, cars, anything. Like that's just always been me. And so I was trying to, be very modest and say, well, whatever. Knowing in my mind, it's like, oh, I got an idea of what I want. Yeah. And so we just started kind of talking about the ring. And he was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He was like, look, let's just go to the jewelry store and you pick out what you want. I was like, okay. So I remember we went to South Point Mall in Durham, and we went to this newsy, snazzy little jewelry store. And when I saw the ring, I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, this is it. And he was like, are you sure? And one of the things that was so, like, some people would probably say it was eerie, but it had a uniqueness to it. It was on Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, no.
And I remember the sales lady, she told us, my husband and I actually got married on Friday the 13th. And she said, we've been married for 30 years. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, just kind of that good omen kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he got the ring and I was like, okay, so when am I going to get the ring? And he was like, when I give it to you. And so we just kind of went on about our day. Long story short, we went to a favorite place in Durham. We would go over to where they had kind of built out the Durham like Bull Park Stadium area. And we went up on this it was like this parking deck, like it went all the way up to the top floor. Yeah. And when we got up there, that's when we started having a conversation and the proposal just kind of led into that. And I remember thinking at that moment, like, this is it. Like, this is it. Aww. So from there, we had to, it was still a lot of adjustment because by now he's in Atlanta and he's working to establish a law firm from the ground up. He didn't go into a public defender's office. He didn't go into a district attorney's office. Wow. He was very matter of fact to say, I'm starting my own thing. Started on a shoestring budget. And we were commuting back and forth. I was coming down here on the weekends. When he had a chance, he would come to North Carolina. We would meet in South Carolina, Charlotte. we were still navigating,
Wow.
you know, until I was able to get down here. And so I was applying for jobs because I was like, I love the fact that you're an entrepreneur, but I want to stay working, you know, because I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, we're still learning how to be engaged and how to, you know, learn how to be married. So let's keep a little part of our lives kind of separate, you know, before we merge it all in, because I had never been married before. And I was like, I'm a student in this. I need to know how this works. So that's how I got here. We found a beautiful condo downtown Atlanta, and we were able to walk to our office, and that's how we did it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you told me about the proposal. Tell me about the wedding.
Oh, goodness. You know, I wish I could share that it was this like big thrilly wedding, but we both agreed, because we were so dedicated to building our careers. We didn't want to invest a lot into, you know, a wedding. So we had a private ceremony, and the beautiful thing was that his father ordained it, and, you know, he married us. And so it was really a very like intimate setting with our parents, and his sister was there. But we did have a very beautiful reception. We had it at the Maggiano's in Durham, and now that was beautiful. We had the nice big reception area, and all of our family and friends were able to come, and the weather for that day could not have been more perfect. I mean, the sun was shining. It was just a beautiful time that we had a chance to share that moment and experience with all of our family and friends. So that's how we did it, and the food was awesome.
I love Maggiano's.
Yes.
It's been a minute for me.
Yes, we can all say thumbs up for Maggiano. So yeah, that was our wedding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about married life for you guys. Did anything change from being, you know, just the girlfriend to the fiance to actually being married?
Oh, absolutely. Every phase of that was different. So when people say that dating and marriage is the same, I would challenge them to say it's not. And it was a challenge, and not a bad thing. Challenge is definitely not a bad thing, but it was an adjustment because, again, I'd never been married before, never lived with someone else outside of my family, because once I graduated from college, it was just me.
Yeah.
And so, and I think I shared earlier, I'm the only girl and I was the baby.
Yeah.
So I was used to kind of having my own
Space.
thing, my own space. And as a woman, I had a lot of stuff. I had closets full of clothing. And, you know, most men, they got their one closet. And so I had already purchased a home in Durham, so I had 3 closets of clothes and shoes and stuff. And so now trying to merge that into a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo until we figured out where we wanted to be in Atlanta. So that required me to do a lot of decision making, say, okay, what can come and what has to stay behind.
Yeah.
He was completely patient with that, and I love that. Because I was also moving away from family and friends, my church family, all of those things that kind of anchors us. So I was dealing with homesickness. I was like, oh God, I'm having to meet new people. I'm having to do new stuff. And so it was aggravating me. So long story short, I had to do a lot of adjustment, and he had to do a lot of adjustments. And so coming together as one, and one of the things that's shared in the book, and I know we'll get to it, but I actually remember him writing a part of his journal that talked about our first kind of major disagreement in the Kroger grocery store over a can of green beans. It was now when I'm able to look back on it, it is the most hilarious thing. And it is the typical first kind of being married type of thing. I don't think that there's any newlywed couple that didn't have a story that they could share about that first, you know, major kind of blow up. But that was just one example of what it's like, you know, when 2 people are merging their lives together.
Yeah.
And so what I was excited to see is that despite all of the shifting, all of the shuffling and adjusting, it brought us closer together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you guys married?
We were married for, let me get my time frames right. So from the time that we got engaged into marriage, we were together for 5 years.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Married us for 5 years or together?
From being together as like engaged and then married 5 years. And now prior to that, when we started dating, that would put us at probably about 7 or 8 years. Time has really flown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So this is the part that I want to get to but don't want to get to.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So I remember one day we were on the phone. I was back in North Carolina. He was down here. And he was very athletic. Joe was very athletic. And so I remember, because where he was staying at before we got our place, where he was staying, there wasn't an elevator, so he had to walk up 3 flights of stairs. And I remember we were on the phone, and I remember him being winded. He was very tired, and that was new. Because I was like, you go up and down these stairs all the time, and when I come there, we hustle up these stairs with groceries, and it's no problem. Most of the time, it'd be like, hold on, we on, the second level, let me stop and pause. He would already be at the top. Yeah. And so after that kind of started going on for a while, we said, you know what, you probably want to get that checked out. Just kind of because it seemed like it was progressing. And so he went to see the doctor, and he had called me, and I was thinking that it was just going to be a quick visit, like, oh yeah, you go in. I called up a couple of my friends that work in the medical industry. I was like, yeah, this is kind of going on these times. I was like, well, yeah, it could just be because he's working a lot and he's doing a lot. And so I remember he had called me from the doctor, and I was like, okay, what's going on? He was like, well, they're doing some, blood work and different things like that. And, I'm just kind of waiting. And so I'm waiting, and he's waiting. We're waiting and waiting. And so I called back. I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, where are you? He was like, yeah, well, I'm still up here. He's like, they're just kind of wanting me to hang out for a minute. And so at that moment, I was like, well, let me, as women, sometimes we are a little more kind of in tune, as where he was kind of just like, okay, it'll be okay. And so long story short, they wanted to keep him. And so it was at that moment we kind of started wondering what's really going on, because this is not the routine kind of, setup. And so it was at that time whenever, they ran a lot of lab work and tests and, found that he had leukemia. And so that is the journey that started, the process of, the treatment and all of those things that comes along with any cancer diagnosis. And being a blood cancer, there is a different kind of regimen just outside of if this was a growth or something that they would go in and do a surgery on. So it kind of changed the course of things. And that is where he really started to journal and document his life that he knew he wanted to share with the world, because being a family of faith, because his parents are known there in the community, they're pastors in the community, and me growing up in a Christian household, faith was one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what, now is the time. And so he knew that he wanted to be able to share that experience with the world. We had no idea where it was going to go and how it was going to go. But he started journaling and documenting that part of his life. And that's how we got to Not Your Average Joe. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So the book is the journals.
Yes.
Were you able, I can't wait to read it for one.
Yes.
Gosh. Well, let me ask this first. How long did you go through leukemia?
Oh, wow. That was that was almost a 4-year process.
Wow.
That was almost a 4-year process, because with leukemia, the treatment process is 3 years.
Yeah.
Like that's the standard. And then there's a period of time where, they want you to be in remission.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's no signs of any type of cancer in the blood, in the bone marrow, things like that.
Yeah.
And so right when we got to the 3-year mark, because he had been in remission for the entire time, so right when we got to that 3-year mark where he was to go in for the appointment for them to do a full scale kind of like, let's just do a deep dive, make sure that everything is still clear.
Yeah.
And it was at that literally right when it was supposed to be a completion, it was a, hey, not yet, because we think we see the presence of cells in the bone marrow. So that from the time of the initial diagnosis all the way to his transition time, it was almost like a 3.5, 4-year journey.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that had to been tough.
Oh yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you can give anyone whose partner or husband, wife is going through dealing with not only leukemia but cancer? Any advice that you can give at all? It's such a hard thing to deal with.
Absolutely. The first piece of advice I would give a spouse that's supporting their mate in that journey is to be gentle with yourself. Because when we say I do, and we stand before God or whoever it may be, we say those vows, and for some people, we may say it and we agree with it and we believe in it, but we never know when that time may come.
Sure.
We say for better, for worse, sickness and health, till death do us part. We don't know when those times will come. And so if one comes before the other,
Yeah.
we are not prepared. There's no manual that says, well, if the spouse gets sick before, there's no manual.
Yeah.
And so it thrusts you into the role. So now you've become partner and caretaker.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of responsibilities, because you are fighting for your partner. You want their healing and their recovery just as much as they do, if not more.
Right.
And so you have to be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace, because sometimes things may not go the way that you're hoping and praying for it to go. And so one of the things that I wrestled with was, why is this not happening the way that we want to see it happen? Because we had a lot of great times during that process. We had a lot of things that would go in our favor, and then sometimes it would seem like we would get set back like 10 steps. And I would beat myself up. And so one of the things, again, that I would encourage partners that are having this experience is to be gentle. And one of the pieces of advice that I got from my mother-in-law, some people say one day at a time. She told us one moment at a time. And that felt so much easier to digest, because sometimes things could be literally going in a different direction at any given moment. And we had to learn to adjust. And with that, you learn not to get too, it's like, we're just going to be in this moment. We don't know what's going to happen from time to time, and do it with as much grace, with as much patience, and find places where you can laugh, find places where you can still love, and just make the best of it. Like, it's here before you. You can't unring a bell. It's like, look, this is here, and we're going to get through it the best way that we know how. And just be patient, because sometimes you're gonna have some missteps, and that's okay. It's totally okay. So, and that's what I share. I am a licensed life coach, and I didn't get a chance to share that. And I am fortunate to be able to help other women and other families that go through this very same thing, because there's no manual. There's absolutely no manual that says, hey, you do it like this. But one of the things that I always found myself wishing is that when I was in that moment, is that I wish that I had someone that could relate because you feel alone. You really do. And you know other people are dealing with it, but when it's you, you can feel so alone. So for me, I advocate, have grace for yourself, be patient, and really tap into your support system. And that was one area that I didn't do the best job in. I didn't do the best job because I was scared and I didn't know. So if someone, watching this, tap into your support system because they want to be there for you. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you mentioned it very briefly. You are Coach T, right?
I am.
Okay. Tell us about that process and why you decided to become a life coach. For one, let me just say this. I think you would be, just off of the experiences that you've been through, because I think you would, what I was going to say was, I think you will be a great life coach because of what you've been through, but not necessarily, it's not for everybody. So what made you go this route?
Well, I was coaching before I ever became a life coach. And it is amazing how things that we do and things that we are putting into the atmosphere, how those things can over time manifest. I never forget, one of the things that I've always been committed to is seeing other people grow and be their best self. Like, I don't know, that was just a gift from God. That's all I can say is a gift from God. And I've always been a leader. I never forget growing up, my family labeled me bossy real quick. And I was like, let me help y'all out. It's not bossy, it's called leadership. We're going to put a positive spin on it.
I love it.
And so from there, I will never forget, before coaching, to me, I was younger, but before coaching was ever a thing, I remember sitting down with one of my cousins, and I remember we were doing some financial planning. And I remember I pulled up on my computer. I was like, you know what? We're going to do like a coaching thing where we're going to help you get some things together in your life. I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to make sure you're doing what you need to do. I never knew what coaching was. And I remember I saved that session with her, and we actually go back and we talk about it. And she said, girl, you were coaching then. And so I've always done that in every part of my life, in every part of my profession.
Wow.
And so when I was blessed to be able to start working in leadership capacities in my career, anyone that I hired on, because I have a passion for young people, college graduates, high school people, because at some point God is going to bless me to get older. And I'm not going to be out here grinding this way. And so we need to build up other people that are able to do it. And so for me, I was like, let me do this. So I had been doing this all alone. And so when I stepped out of the traditional work sector, I had already started, the formal process of becoming a licensed coach. I enrolled in a university. I went through the formal steps because I know that I was gifted to do it, but I wanted to be able to demonstrate. So when people sign up for coaching sessions, they know that this wasn't somebody that I didn't come and just hang my shingle out somewhere and say, hey, I'm a coach. I'm actually living it. I'm doing it. I have the credentials to show it. And so I just took all of that work that I had been doing in professional and personal life, and I said, hey, let me make sure I do it the right way. I had the right people come in and teach me what I needed to be taught. And I started coaching, and so I literally have had the opportunity to work with some of the best people. I'm talking about, I've had the chance to work with people who I look at and like, wait a minute, I'm trying to be like you.
Wow.
I'm trying to get to your level. And then of course, when this, happened with Joe, for a long time I was in a fog. I was like, I'm not really sure what this is all about. So there was no coaching going on for a long time because I needed the coaching. I needed to be revived. And so I was like, I can't give this to anybody because I need it. But when I recovered and through my recovery process, I said, you know what? This can't be in vain. This has to be something because I'm not the only widow out here. There's going to be more.
Wow. Yeah.
And lo and behold, people that knew me and would call and say, you know what, I have someone that they're kind of going through the same thing. And it may not be cancer, it could be anything, but can you talk to them? And I was like, hey, absolutely. And so anything that I have experienced and that I can give to the next person that will help elevate them in their life, that will set them up for success, I'm their coach. So that's how I became Coach T.
Oh my gosh. Question, is there a difference between therapy and coaching?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Therapy, we are, what the best way that I can put it, so I look at therapy as kind of like the emergency room. You know, something acute has happened and they need this treatment kind of intervention. They need someone that can come in and stop the bleeding. They need someone that can do the deep dive and go in and say, okay, you have this clogged artery. Now, how did you get there? Let's go in and let's kind of go through all of that. And that's a process.
Okay.
And so once they finished in ER, they finish with whatever part of the medical, they feel good.
Yeah.
They're all stitched up. They're ready to get back into the game. You need a coach. Because during that process, you kind of lost a little bit. You know, you kind of lost your footing. And so the coaching process is to help you get back to where you were and where you're trying to go. So a lot of times people come in and I do an assessment because I need to hear where they are. Because if you're in a place of grieving, as I was, you don't need somebody, hey girl, get through it. You need somebody to help. You need someone to be gentle. You need that part that says, hey, where are you mentally?
Yeah.
Where are you spiritually? And once you do that process, then you can come back and say, you know what? I have made peace with that. And that doesn't mean that you're not still going through a healing process, but you're at a different place. And now you are ready for coaching. You're ready for a coach to come in and say, hey, it's time to get on it. It's time to, like, where you stuck at. That's where coaching comes in. So there's a huge difference. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that clarity, because I think some people get the two mixed up, understandably so. But thank you for that clarity.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. At the end of this, of course, I'm going to ask you to provide all your contact information so people can get in contact with you and everything that that you have going on, which is amazing stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's get back to the book. What made you I know that he had the journals. Did he ever say that he wanted to make this a book? Like an official book?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And then at what point did you say, let me do this for him?
Oh God.
Let me finish this for him. Wow.
So, we were going through premarital counseling before we got married. And he had already shared with me through many conversations that he wanted to write a book, but he felt like he hadn't achieved or accomplished enough for that to happen. So I was like, well, you know, just start somewhere, because there's a part of your life that regardless, it matters. And so during our premarital counseling sessions, my bishop at the time prophesied to him and said, it's a book in you. And he was like, oh, my husband was like, oh, like hadn't even shared that we had been in the process or the discussions about him writing a book. And so one of the things that he shared at that time was that he had so much to do, because by this time the law firm is moving. We've got a lot of different things going on, and he was like, how am I going to have time to write a book? And so my bishop encouraged him to, hey, just take a tape recorder with you wherever you go. Just get like a little mini recorder, record your thoughts, write it down, journal it, and that's what he started doing. And so all of that, and I remember when everything happened with him, I had absolutely no desire to write a book, because that was going to be reliving everything that happened.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I was nowhere near the heal process to be able to do it. The first time that I tried to do it, it literally it literally set me back so much in my recovery because I started seeing my own therapist. And when I tried to write it, because a lot of times people think that journaling is therapeutic, it wasn't for me because I wasn't journaling my thoughts. I was trying to write. I was trying to extract what he had and put it in a book. It wasn't time. It wasn't time.
Yeah.
Because I would start, stop. It was too painful. It was too real. And even the stuff that's in the book, I was looking like, you want me to put that in the book? You want me to, like, no. Because one of the things for us is that we valued being able to have a private life. Not as a place of being secretive. Not from a place of, but just from a place of a private life.
Yeah.
And so when I went back and looked at what was there, I was like, oh God, this is our life.
Yeah.
And this involves other people's lives.
Yeah.
And so I had to pray. I had to seek counsel and even legal counsel. Because what I realized is that this, it doesn't paint us in the best light. Let me be honest.
Wow.
And through prayer and meditation, one thing about both Joe and I, we were both believers. We both dedicated our lives to Christ. And so one of the things that I love about the book and I loved about my life and his life is that we don't have this kind of, perfect, packaged, we are two Christians that's got it all figured out. Yeah. And we realized that was a lot of the struggles with a lot of people in our age group and a lot of people just in general. Because it was the thought that, oh, you guys got it all figured out. Y'all are, no, we don't. We're trying to figure this out just like everybody else. And it was through that time that we both developed probably the most authentic relationship in our spiritual walk. Because we didn't have it figured out. So when I saw this, I'm like, oh God. But what better way for healing to take place when people are able to see the real? Because that's what I love. And today we're in this time where everything says reality TV.
Yeah.
This isn't one of those reality TV shows where we make up scripts. This is the raw, real, step on some toes, probably share things that people didn't know. Some people probably would say, oh God, y'all really wanted to reveal that? That is what is going to bring about healing for someone else. Because again, if I would have had a book like this and like, oh my God, this couple that I look to and I admire, this is what they did. Oh, if they dealt with that and they got through it, I know I can get through it.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you so much for this interview. It has been an honor to finally meet you in person.
I know.
Oh my gosh. You're
Likewise.
as beautiful inside as you are outside. Oh my gosh. It's been a pleasure getting to know you as a person.
Thank you.
Outside
Likewise.
of social media. Okay, so with that being said, how can people, and I know you have a lot going on, so I do want you to be very specific on all the contact information that you have. So I know you have Coach T, you have the book, of course, and then you have the other thing that you do for entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you in any of those areas.
Absolutely. So if people want to contact me for coaching, if they want the PR component of I Am Professionals, they can go to iamcoacht.com. Everything is there. So if they want to sign up for services, if they want to get some coaching, I have my team that's on there. So we have specific categories that we work in because I'm not like the one-stop shop coach. I tell people real quick, I don't do it all, but what I do, I'm good at it. So they can again go to iamcoacht.com. The book and the hard copy, it was available on I Am Coach T, but to God be the glory, it's sold out.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely. But the soft cover is available on Amazon. And so the only thing they have to do is go to Amazon, go over into the book category, and put in Not Your Average Joe without the E. And that's the title of the book, and that's how he spelled Joe. It wasn't Joe, but it was J-O. So that is available on Amazon, and then across all of my social media platforms. For Instagram, just go to I am Coach T or just Coach T. They can find me like that. And then on Facebook, it's TaNesha McAuley.
All right. Now, just to be specific, when you say T, do you just mean the letter T
The
or
letter
T-E-E?
T. Okay. Yep, the letter T.
Just want to make sure they will 100% know how to get in contact.
Absolutely. And if they want to listen to some exciting podcasts, I have the Power Seat podcast, which is with me, my best friend, Nicole. And I ain't going to say her last name because she's like, girl, be calling my whole government name out. But our podcasts are literally on most of the major platforms. So we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google, so if people want to go to Google Play Music, we are even on Spotify. So all you gotta do is literally go to those platforms and put in the Power Seat podcast, and it'll pop right up. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will make sure that I have all those links available as well for people. And so that is it. Is there anything else that you wanted to, any closing words that you want to leave to your audience?
Closing words, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you. I know I have said it so many times since you and your team have been here. Thank you so much. This was a privilege and an honor. And I don't take it lightly that you took time out of your schedule while you were here for a celebratory moment to invite me in to interview and to be able to share Joe's story and to share my story. So thank you so much. This means everything. I'm so excited. You could be the next Shonda Rhimes, I don't know, but it is truly an honor to be on your platform. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you again.
This is an Onyx Urban Media Group production.